So what we decided to do, first, there will be no demos during this presentation, just slides to make it shorter. And there will be two parts. We wanted to separate the the roadmap of the desktop model development tool. And the second part is the cloud. So we will do the model development environment first, and then questions and answers, and then the cloud part. Okay, but before we start, I'm happy to share some numbers with you. So you and us were all doing really, really great. So some recent statistics that among the LinkedIn simulation user community, AnyLogic is, as of December 2018, is 31%, which is the biggest ever. And then a kind of usual mind share measure is the how many models presented at Winter Simulation Conference, and like a major annual conference for business simulation, are done with which tool. So last conference, which was in December 2018, almost 40% of all models presented at the conference were done with AnyLogic, which we're very, very happy with. And this is the dynamics of the same mindshare measure over the last 6 years. So it kind of speaks for itself. And isn't that great? Okay, so AnyLogic model development environment, desktop application. We recently released 8.4, and we will not go deeply into details of the material handling library because most of you guys were at this morning's workshop. So other things that appeared in 8.4 are files as resources. We will show you a little bit later on. Improved animation performance, export to standalone application from command line. It's a feature that was requested by some customers. And then we just added this last line like 30 minutes ago because, Lyle Wallace asked us to do it because there were some, at least one of the presenters today, who was kind of saying, well, if we have an agent-based model where each agent has system dynamics inside, the performance goes down as the number of agents goes up. So just for that case, we recently introduced a new feature, which is, Nikolay.
In this feature, actually, system dynamics software doesn't stop on any on each discrete event. So if you have a large population of agents with asynchronous events, this model will speed up at least 3 times faster, or it may be 100 times faster.
So is Lyle here? No. Yeah. So Lyle, in your case, the speed up was.
Maybe 100 to 1,000.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, Lyle. So just so you know that the feature is already in there. All right. So what's going to happen next? We will be continuing minor releases with the further improvements of the material handling library and some other stuff. We will go through that. But already in parallel, we have started developing AnyLogic 9, which tentatively will be released by the end of next year, 2020, right? So, well, if all goes as currently planned, by the end of 2020, you will be able to switch to a much better model development environment, completely new version of AnyLogic. But okay, let's go through the kind of recent features. You saw that slide in the morning, so I don't need to explain. So we basically added some new blocks to the material handling library.
To add more, maybe we also added this network port element, so it allows you to create really large and self-configurable, dynamically configurable networks of conveyors and transporter networks. So using this model, you can build hierarchical space markup for your manufacturing models.
And of course, the major feature is the free space movement of transporters and AGVs. Now, these are the next steps in material handling. Okay, so Nikolay, some quick comments on what's going to appear.
So actually, this is currently being implemented, and as you could see today in the morning, we also I've demonstrated this heat map for transporters. We have improvements on how these transporters are routed in lane-based networks. So we also introduce traveling between several levels and other stuff regarding material handling. Next will be bridge cranes, is like continuation of our cranes development. Currently we have a jeep crane, and also improvements in a free space movement. And we will also introduce levels, so like you will create models of multi-level environments, like in you draw in Photoshop like style in a graphical editor. And we will also add more to our storage systems. Like currently we have pallet rack and rack system in a process modeling library. We will implement these elements in a new material handling library way and style, and so all these new features will interpret these
Thank
systems.
you. Okay, now just a slide on some other features that recently appeared, so you know that they're in there. First, this is pretty important that now AnyLogic model is aware of all files that are associated somehow with the model. And there is a resources section in the project tree, resources item, that has subsections like data files, images, 3D objects that you import, and you know that AnyLogic can import in like Collada format, and some other files. Now, files that are referenced by the model and present in the model folder are green, so AnyLogic is happy that the referenced file is in place. Then if the file is present but not referenced, so it's probably a leftover from some previous developments, it'll be grayed out. And then if the file is red, that means that the model references the file, but it's not present in the folder. So now you know, now you can efficiently manage the files associated with the model. Right, and then, okay, this is the type of files, obviously. And important things is that when the model gets exported to standalone application or to the cloud, the files referenced by the model are exported as well. The other important feature is that now, and that feature was requested by our cloud users, so you can use file as an input in AnyLogic Cloud. So not just, like numeric values or strings, but it also can have a file as yet another type of input. So to do that, you basically drag a file from this resources view onto the inputs field of your run configuration, and then it becomes in the cloud. It becomes a file parameter. Okay, it looks like this. Yeah.
And this actually can be any file used in your model. For example, you have Excel file or text file or any other type of file. AnyLogic Cloud doesn't distinguish between them.
Yeah, and you can obviously change the file as you run the model from the cloud. Okay. Now, I will ask Nikolay to quickly go through other things that will appear before AnyLogic 9 is out.
So in Pro's modeling library, we will target some requested features like changing priorities of tasks for resource units. This is also needed by material handling library. So all this I already told. So in a graphical editor, it will be possible to define multi-level models just in one agent type, like you draw on a main agent type, several levels, and define networks, for example, of conveyors in these levels. Also, this maybe will done in AnyLogic 9, standardized navigation panel element for making all our examples and your models looking in a similar, good and convenient way. And also we have many ideas how to improve performance of our animation. It has been recently improved, 3D animation, as you could see in AnyLogic Cloud. And this task is also requested by material handling and manufacturing models to convert CAD.
Yeah, and actually the last but not least, we have, as you might know, an ongoing work on integration of AnyLogic and artificial intelligence, and details of that. We want to go deeply into details of that work because tomorrow we have a presentation by Dr. Arash Mahdavi, working from our North American, from our Chicago office, and he will tell you exactly what those improvements in that integration are, right? So this will wait until tomorrow. All right, that is kind of it's kind of funny story, and we want to go through it. So the action chart case. All right, so can I ask you guys who are using, who use action charts in AnyLogic? Please raise your hands. Okay, a few. So that is kind of what we thought, right? So what happened is that internally, it says infernally, but it's so funny, I didn't want to correct this. So internally, we thought that actually nobody uses action charts, because action charts do not really simplify coding, because you still have to know Java to put together action charts. And our statistics that we had was telling us that, well, they're not really used at all, right? So what we decided to do is, okay, if this feature is not really needed, let's remove action charts, and we did it in 8.4 alpha.
Yeah, we removed it from the code.
Completely. Yeah, and everyone who did coding knows how this is such a relief when you just throw away a big piece of code. Okay, and so that's 8.3 alpha went out to our kind of key users, and okay, there were so many complaints. Okay, please do not remove action charts, and some of the complaints were even rude, just and okay, some of the people who were sending us those emails sit in this room, by the way. So okay. we had a series of internal meetings, and a decision was made to return, to revert, and to put all that old code back. And we said, okay, if we cannot delete action charts, we'll have to think how to make them better, right? So, and now we're not only returning action charts, but we will really make them better. So if you have them, then we have some thoughts on how to actually make them usable at runtime. Maybe we will have some profiling statistics on like blocks of action charts and some other ideas, right? So the lesson learned is that even our great support may not know really all the usage patterns of AnyLogic, and next time if we decide to do something similar, everybody will be asked for sure, right?
And we also added a feature to convert action chart to function. So if your action chart gets pretty complex and you want to switch to like ordinary AnyLogic function, just right-click on it and convert.
And you will get rid of action chart. Good. Okay. Now, AnyLogic 9. So in general, we're staying on the same kind of path. So we will keep AnyLogic as a general purpose tool that is used across many industries and supports multi-method and multi-scale modeling. So that direction is not going to change because this is where the strength of AnyLogic is. We will also continue maintaining AnyLogic's remarkable flexibility and ability to create self-configurable models. And you probably noticed that some presentations today were explicitly referencing that it's such a great feature. You can create a self-configurable model. So nothing is hard-coded. Everything is read from a database or Excel or other type of data source, and then the model sets up itself as it starts. So that is going to stay. Okay, so, but there are going to be some changes. So that slide, I know that we showed that slide to our partners, so partners, please stay silent. But I want us to ask everybody, what do you think cannot be ignored any longer? Any ideas?
The development environment.
What?
The developing environment.
The development environment, okay. Other guesses? Team collaboration? Okay. So, other, no? Yes. Huh? Git. Okay, that's, okay, some, yes, some of you were close, but none really guessed. So, that's Python, guys, because what is happening is that Python already dominates the analytics space. This chart is the Google searches for coding languages, and you're seeing that, okay, Java that used to be that high is kind of going down a little bit, and Python is rapidly going up. And even if we look into simulation sector, these three pie charts show you, if we consider Python as yet another modeling tool, and if you count the winter simulation papers or models done in Python, its share is pretty stable, and it's not negligible at all. So we have to address it in AnyLogic, right? And how to address it was going to be on the next slide. But for you guys, I obviously have to confirm that Java is here to stay. Java will never go away from AnyLogic. This is a great language. And so nothing, in terms of Java, nothing changes. but we will open AnyLogic to Python users, to Python programmers, right? So, but otherwise, AnyLogic 9 highlights. First, we are, I mean, I don't know how about you guys, but we're already tired of this old school Eclipse user interface of the development tool. At last it's going to go away and it will be replaced by new brilliant like web style user interface. So this is one of the things that we're going to do. The editor performance, the model editor performance will obviously be much, much better and better 3D editing. For Python, we're considering alternatives, so we haven't yet made a decision. So what we want to do, we want to have two scripting languages for the user to choose from, Java and Python. Now, underneath there are alternatives, either to just have engine written in Java, as it is now, and provide a kind of interface or bridge between users, Python, and the engine, or to have two engines, so one completely Python, another completely Java. So that is kind of being discussed right now. We're doing experiments. I cannot tell you right now which way we're going to go. Am I correct?
Yes. Having two engines and two sets of libraries will be a complex task.
Well, I think we can handle it. Okay. Right. Okay. This point is okay. It's when we're adding, new features. Sometimes we kind of introduce extra things, extra notions to AnyLogic, but we always try to stay minimalistic as possible, as minimalistic as general purpose tool can be. So we always try to merge things back. So like array and node will merge into one notion, GIS root and path, etc., etc. So there will be a lot of mergers like that, which will simplify our life and your life. Two of you guys were, or actually all of you who were trying to guess what cannot be ignored. It's different development environments. Git will be supported, and true teamwork will be supported by AnyLogic 9.
Hi. We are developing a AnyLogic team, and looking at the kind of background they need. Should we be starting to hire more with a Java background and AnyLogic, or should we go to the Python background? Because now you're talking about dual mode, or you're going to be moving into Python. So what is your thought? When we are starting to hire new modelers in our team, should we be more in the direction of Python back experience or Java experience? What do you think about that?
Right. So we plan to treat both languages like equally good. And as I'm saying, the user will have a choice when which language to use as a scripting language for the model, right? Because model is not just scripting, it's also drag and drop and graphical editing, but every now and then you need to write some lines of code, right? So you will be able to choose which language to use to write those lines of code, right? Now, you know what Python is, right? Python's performance is worse than Java performance for sure, right? It's easier to write code, so it's easier to prototype in Python, but it's also so easy to write code with terrible performance, right? So it's really, up to you. So if you want more control over the let's say strictness and type control and performance, then you should probably go for Java aware modelers, right? Otherwise, if that is kind of not an issue, and there's not, if the model is mainly maybe drag and drop with only kind of some function calls without any algorithms or data structures, then I would say it wouldn't really matter which language you choose. Okay. So other questions?
Yeah, I've just a brief question about action charts. I'm over here on your left, standing beside the pole. So there's a trend. You can click on an action chart and you can convert it into a function, which is great. But what about the reverse? Because then, I mean, it's a good point. I don't like coding in action charts, but the clients like to see action charts. So if I could do everything in a function, then just click a button and get an action chart, that'd be great.
Yeah, Nikolay.
So we were actually thinking about this feature when we were removing action charts. So we wanted to create like this reverse conversion to an image, but actually, if you convert your function to action chart, it will produce huge, large action chart with number of blocks inside. Probably you would want to merge several lines of code, several code blocks to one and do anything in this style. So we still keep in mind this feature once we want to promote and improve action charts.
We don't promote them.
No promote. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's doable. Yes.
It's doable, but to our mind, the action charts, let's say, automatically produced from Java code will not be really useful, but at least most of them. Okay. Yeah.
Can you talk about your visuals and 3D rendering? There is a pretty decent visualization, but better graphics are always appreciated by customers. Doing something more like the Transocean slide where it was using Unreal Engine.
Right. So
being able to walk through in VR.
Okay. So on the animation side, the decision was made last year, actually 2 years ago, to stay with what standard HTML can give us. And standard HTML gives us basically two things. For 2D graphics, it's wonderful vector SVG, which we're using for 2D animation. We're going to stay with that. There's a whole lot of, a list of improvements that we know we can do, and we will be applying them. So it'll be more and more better and better performing. For 3D, HTML offers WebGL, right, which is now showing, and we're also improving that, right? If you compare like 8.3 and 8.4, was a huge performance improvement in terms of how these 3D 3D scenes are, how rapidly they're rendered. Now, as for interfaces with like gaming engines, right? So it's not in the plan for now, yeah, right? It would be really great if those guys like Transocean who did it would share maybe in LinkedIn and some other, or I know Stack Overflow and some other groups where AnyLogic groups, how they actually did it. If there is something we can learn and incorporate into the core product, we'll be just happy, right? So that's basically all I can say. So we'll be keep improving HTML standard HTML animation, right? If we see that there is a kind of more or less easy way to support feeding animation updates to third-party engines, we will do it. So that's all I can say for now. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the news about moving the development environment to this web-based UIs is quite groundbreaking. So if we look at the development environments like IDEA or Eclipse or a whole bunch of Siemens stuff, for example, or Dassault systems, they're still planned to stay as a native application. So what was the rationale behind moving AnyLogic 9 to this web-based development UI?
What's the rationale behind moving to web UI, web style UI?
Yeah.
First of all, we're aesthetics, because we want to look up to date. We don't want to look kind of old school, and I think these days, I mean, what tools to create web interfaces are just so great. To me, like modern HTML plus CSS plus scripting gives you like remarkable, opportunities to create like beautiful and really usable UI. So that's basically the rationale. So if you were having in mind whether it would be possible,
responsive enough,
whether
it will be responsive enough,
oh yeah, absolutely. I don't have a single doubt that the response will be good. It will also be possible, theoretically, to run AnyLogic development interface remotely with the backend running on the server. So we will have that possibility, but we're not planning to, let's say, to switch to web-only tool. No, there are no such plans.
Thank you.
Hey, I have one question here. I would like to know, first of all, when we could expect this. Like, we work with a large-scale simulation for research purposes, right here. Right here. So we've been having a lot of trouble with the merging versions you were talking about at the end. Is this going to be in the AnyLogic 9, or we could expect earlier to have some sort of collaboration, because coding between 10 people is getting crazy without this feature. Other question I have is, we had asked for the standalone versions to come in the Linux type of a standalone version for the Java, and until last version, like 8.3.3, I believe it was, we had the option of generating the Java, the Linux Java standalone version, but it doesn't run in the Linux. Like, there's some bug on it, so I don't know if there's some changes in that matter. And last question would be, would it be possible before AnyLogic 9 to get like the background black? Maybe not like this, like very modern web-based, but not to burn your eyes, like coding for hours in the white background, like Python style. Now that you are, thank you.
So there were multiple questions. Okay, one of them was about exporting standalone to Linux, right? Yeah.
So regarding this question, so now we have an export which generates the model for all the operating systems. So there are 3 script files to run your exported model. Actually, there is no native user interface in the model because it's now in browser. So if you want to export, for example, from Windows to Linux, so you have an AnyLogic development environment on Windows machine, you want to export standalone to be run on Linux, you may download a set of Chromium browser, which is exported along with the model. It's from the help menu of AnyLogic, so it's there. Just in one click, you download and export, and it will work on Linux, Mac.
Yeah, and I don't think I remember the other 2 questions, but one of them was about version control. So version control will only appear. I mean, the full Git support will only appear in AnyLogic 9. So I think let's stop with the questions now and proceed to the part 2.